This video will cover sampling, reliability, validity, and ethics in relation to your research project. What is sampling and what are the different types of sampling? To begin with, what is sampling? In research terms, a sample is a group of people, objects, or items that are taken from a larger population for measurement. The sample should be representative of the population to ensure that we can generalize the findings from the research sample to the population as a whole. The number of people taking part in the study is called the sample size. The first step is deciding the target population, the particular group of people you are interested in studying. Researchers choose a smaller, more manageable number of people to take part in their research. This is called sampling. In quantitative research, it is believed that if this sample is chosen carefully using the correct procedure, it is then possible to generalize the results to the whole of the research population. For many qualitative researchers, however, the ability to generalize their work to the whole research population is not the goal. Instead, they might seek to describe or explain what is happening within a smaller group of people. This, they believe, might provide insights into the behavior of the wider research population, but they accept that everyone is different and that if the research were to be conducted with another group of people, the results might not be the same. There are different types and methods of sampling. This video will cover random, opportunity, and volunteer sampling. Random. This method gives every member of the target population an equal chance of being selected for the sample by assigning a number to each member and then selecting from the pool using a random number generator. Strength of this is it is widely accepted that since each member has the same probability of being selected, there is a reasonable chance of achieving a representative sample. The weaknesses are smaller minority groups within your target group may distort results, even with a random sampling technique. It can be impractical or not possible to use a completely random technique. The target group may be too large to assign the numbers to. Opportunity. Participants who are both accessible and willing to take part are targeted. For example, employees from a conveniently located employer near the laboratory could be selected for the sample group. Strengths. This method is easy and inexpensive to carry out. Weaknesses. The consequent sample may not be representative as it could be subject to bias. The conveniently located employer may undertake a selection process for job applicants, making it likely that employees possess certain similar characteristics that are unrepresentative of the wider target group. Volunteer. Here, the sample consists of people who have volunteered to be in the study. Strengths. This often achieves a large sample size through reaching a wide audience, for example, with online advertisements. Weaknesses. Those who respond to the call for volunteers may all display similar characteristics, such as being more trusting or cooperative than those who did not apply, thus increasing the chances of yielding an unrepresentative sample. Reliability and validity. in the research project. Reliability. Reliability refers to whether or not you get the same answer by using an instrument to measure something more than once. In simpler terms, research reliability is the degree to which research method produces stable and consistent results. A specific measure is considered to be reliable if its application on the same object of measurement number of times produces the same results. Here are two examples. The first example. You measure the temperature of a liquid sample several times under identical conditions. The thermometer displays the same temperature every time, so the results are reliable. The second example. A doctor uses a symptom questionnaire to diagnose a patient with a long-term medical condition. Several different doctors use the same questionnaire with the same patient but give different diagnoses. This indicates that the questionnaire has low reliability as a measure of the condition. Validity. Validity refers to how accurately a method measures what it is intended to measure. If research has high validity, that means it produces results that correspond to real properties, characteristics, and variations in the physical or social world. High reliability is one indicator that a measurement is valid. If a method is not reliable, it probably isn't valid. Here are two examples. If the thermometer shows different temperatures each time, even though you have carefully controlled conditions to ensure the same sample's temperature stays the same, the thermometer is probably malfunctioning, and therefore its measurements are not valid. However, if a symptom questionnaire results in a reliable diagnosis when answered at different times and with different doctors, this indicates that it has high validity as a measurement of the medical condition. And just to recap, a thoughtful and reliable method strengthens your report because it increases the reliability of the evidence and the conclusions reached. Thoughtful readers will not just accept what you report to them, they will examine the way through which you obtain your evidence and tested your thesis to reach particular conclusions. The method you use must be valid and reliable. It must be genuine and believable to produce reliable research information. Therefore, the method you state in the method chapter stands as a roadmap to measure the validity and reliability of your conclusions, and possibly of the argument of the whole report. Integrity and quality of your research project. Following your moral or ethical convictions and doing the right thing in all circumstances, even if no one is watching you. Having integrity means you are true to yourself and would do nothing that demeans or dishonors you. Research integrity may be defined as active adherence to the ethical principles and professional standards essential for the responsible practice of research. By active adherence, we mean adoption of the principles and practices as a personal credo, not simply accepting them as impositions by rule makers. By ethical principles, we mean honesty, the golden rule, trustworthiness, and high regard for the scientific record. According to the NAS report definition, For individuals, research integrity is an aspect of moral character and experience. It involves above all a commitment to intellectual honesty and personal responsibility for one's actions and to a range of practices that characterize responsible research conduct. These practices include honesty and fairness in proposing, performing, and reporting research, accuracy and fairness in representing contributions to research proposals and reports, proficiency and fairness in peer review, communications and sharing of resources, disclosure of conflicts of interest, protection of human subjects in the conduct of research, humane care of animals in the conduct of research, adherence to the mutual responsibilities of mentors and trainees. While science encourages, and actually requires, vigorous defense of one's ideas and work, ultimately research integrity means examining the data with objectivity and being guided by the results rather than by preconceived notions. Quality in research. Quality research should not be confused with quality evidence because the sum of quality research results on a specific topic defines the quality of the evidence. Quality scientific research is understood as a process, checklist, comprising several steps that attempts to ensure the credibility, applicability, consistency, and neutrality of the results. The checklist defines a standard which is agreed by experts and may vary depending on whether one is using a quantitative or qualitative approach. In the case of quantitative research, the criteria to assess its quality includes the internal validity of the results, context, sample size, power calculation, external validity, ecological generalizability, verified predicted relationships, etc., reliability, consistency if replicated, replicability, can others reproduce the results, and objectivity, unbiased. Ethics. In the UK, all social research which is carried out on the healthcare premises comes under the jurisdiction of research ethics committees. These committees were set up to ensure that research does not harm patients in any way and that it is done in their best interests. Clinical research follows experimentation on human subjects, bearing in mind the sole purpose of finding a new drug or a drug better than the existing one to cure an illness. These experiments may expose the test subjects to high risk factors. In order to minimize the risk and safeguard the credibility of the participant, ethical practice during all the phases of the experiment is essential. Therefore, there is a need for an ethics committee at every research center to ensure that ethics is a practice and a discipline in all aspects of the research. When conducting your research, select the problem which is suitable in terms of ethical issues around it. This means that the problem you select should not violate ethical issues surrounding the researcher and your participants. If investigating the problem will cause some physical or psychological harm to the researcher or the informant, that kind of problem is not worth investigating. Issues of informed consent, protection from harm, and privacy of informants are important for you to consider before you select the problem for your investigation. The principle for voluntary participation requires that people not be forced into participating in your research. This is especially relevant where researchers had previously relied on captive audiences for their subjects, as prisons, universities, and similar places. Closely related to the notion of voluntary participation is the requirement of the informed consent. Essentially, this means that prospective research participants must be fully informed about the procedures and risks involved in research and must give their consent to participate. Ethical standards also require that researchers not put participants in a situation where they might be at risk of harm as a result of their participation. Harm can be defined both physical and psychological. Right to withdraw. A participant can leave a research study at any time. When withdrawing from the study, the participant should let the research team know that he/she wishes to withdraw. A participant may provide the research team with a reason or reasons for leaving the study. However, this is not an essential requirement. Confidentiality and anonymity are ethical practices designed to protect the privacy of human subjects while collecting, analyzing, and reporting data. Confidentiality refers to separating or modifying any personal, identifying information provided by participants from the data. By contrast, anonymity refers to collecting data without obtaining any personal, identifying information. Typically, anonymity is the procedure followed in quantitative studies, and confidentiality is maintained in qualitative studies. In both cases, the researcher gathers information from participants, and it is information that becomes the data to be analyzed. This video has covered the following topics: sampling, reliability, validity, and ethics in research project. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you very much for watching.